Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and today we're going to continue on with the very slow construction of a belt grinder. I'll get that out in a minute. And things are going pretty slow. I didn't have a video last week because I had so many things I had to do, and the boss lady kept me busy taking her here and there. And I've also had to start practicing because it's, you know, just a week away now to the monthly steel challenge. So taking the boss lady places and doing things around here has slowed me down considerably. I did get a sticker in the mail here. I think that's all I've got. Not sure. Hadn't had time to put it up yet. I noticed that I was leaving things half unfinished behind me, a regular string of half unfinished things, and that slowed me down too. I hadn't finished wiring all that, you know, the separate power supplies in on the little grizzly mill, and I went to working on the last wheel, and I had all kind of adventures on that, which slowed me down there too. And then in the making of it, I had to stop and work on my hydraulic press because the little spring thing holder that pulls the ram back up was aluminum, and it started bending up in a U shape, and then I couldn't turn the screw because it was bent up against it. I'll show you what we've done on the wheel. I started out, where is it? I started out going to use a bushing. This is the bushing I was going to use. You'll see it's split, you know, right down the middle. And I never used a bushing on anything before in my whole life. You'd think at 73 years old I'd know everything, but there's still 2 or 3 things I don't know. Anyway, this was one of them. And I got this little guy, and I read a little bit. It said it was tapered. Sure enough, it's tapered right here, and that's what, when it's bolted down to your pulley or whatever you got, that's what makes it grip onto the shaft, you know, instead of having to go put a set screw in or something. And I never could find anywhere where it said what that angle was, and I couldn't I couldn't find anything to say, well, the pulley either is or isn't tapered on the inside hub. But I figured, well, it's obviously makes sense that if you're putting a tapered part into the hub of something, that hub's got to be tapered at the same angle also, right? So I got my compass out and I measured this thing, and as near as I could figure, it was a 1 degree angle. So I set my compound for 1 degree, and I put the wheel up in there, and I bored the hub out to where this guy would slide up inside of it, at least a little over halfway. That being because you got to have, you know, some small amount left to pull it down. And I put this on the shaft, and I put the wheel on it, and I tightened her down, and it got a good grip on the motor shaft, but the wheel wobbled. So I pulled this thing back out, and I put some Dicom inside the wheel, and discovered that the angles really didn't match. So the next thing I did was I put this thing in the chuck, and I used a dial indicator to try to copy the angle. That was a heck of a job. It took me practically forever. And then after I thought I was had to be dead on with the angle, I put the wheel back in the chuck, bored it again. Now every time you bore this thing, you've got to go back deeper in the hole because it's going to get bigger at the, you know, the inlet of the hole. So I bored another 1/8 of an inch or so, more than that, maybe 3/16 down into there. And I tried the thing, and son of a gun, too loose. So I bored it deeper and tried it, and it's still too loose. And finally, I gave up on it. I said, the bushing is not meant to be. Obviously, rednecks can't cut an angle or taper good enough to fit the stupid thing together. So I thought, well, then that means I've got to make some kind of a hub, because my gear, my pulley is already getting a pretty big hole in it there, you know. You got to have something to hang on to. So my next step get some plate, that's some raised plate, and I cut out a piece, and I machined a piece of metal and stuck it right through a hole in the piece, welded it down, and then rounded it all off nice and round, because I cut this from a rectangular piece of flat steel. And then I go to cut the keyway. Well, during the cutting of the keyway, I had to stop and work on the hydraulic press because I couldn't, I couldn't adjust the little screw. Yeah, side things. I've done a lot of side things. And when I got through cutting the keyway, I thought, well, that's way too thin on the side for me to screw a set screw in. So I made a sleeve, slid it over the piece I made, and then I threaded a hole, to hold down the key. So it's been a long trip getting down to where this particular wheel is finished. But now, when I get ready to go together with it, I'll slide this guy up inside of here, and it fits kind of tight there, but it'll go in. Run it up in there, screw it down good and tight, slide that on the motor. This pulley is, this wheel, which is the drive wheel, is officially finished now, and it come out pretty close to 5 inches. Alright, so we're up to, we still got 2 more little wheels to make. They're the little 2-inchers, and I already told you guys I wasn't going to show any more wheel making, so I'll do them at some point along when you're not watching me. But it's come time now to start cutting the metal framework for this thing, and so this is where we're going to start off today, is on the bandsaw. The project didn't start on the bandsaw, it started on the foundry, but we're getting to the bandsaw now, so let's get on with it. It's real easy to use up days that you didn't plan for. I forgot in the list of stuff that I've done instead of working on this project was I did a 50,000 mile oil change on the truck, and I did the first brake job on the truck. So one day I did the oil change, and the boss lady kept me out all day. That afternoon I did the oil change, and then the next day I did the brake job. And I'm retired, so I don't usually work more than about 3 or 4 hours in a day, and that right there kills a couple of days. So these are my excuses for not making any progress on this project. There's just been too many other things, and on top of that, there was a couple of days in there I just wasn't in the mood to do anything anyway, and I sat around and watched YouTube videos. I watched a whole lot of Donut Operator. He's a cop, or used to be a cop, and he shows all the video that they show on the news. When they show it on the news, they edit the video so it looks altogether like a different story than if you saw the whole thing. Pretty interesting. Alright, I've got this guy here, which is going to be put on the inside of the pulley. This guy is going to go on the inside of here. It's going to be, once I get it down the side, it's going to be the part that this guy is going to fasten to. Alright, so this will go up in the wheel like that, like up in the inside of it like that. A little too big right now. As soon as it cools down a little bit, I'll cut off that big lump in the back and machine this side a little straighter, and then we'll clean it all up and bore the hole in it and everything, and then we'll drill holes in it to fit the holes that we're going to thread through the hub, and then we'll be about finished with that wheel. It's sure been a long fight. Okay, so I've made this little piece here, which is not totally finished. I don't have a hole in the middle yet. but it'll fit right in here as the hub for the wheel. Now you can see that I might need to push the wheel in a little further, or I might need to trim this guy off a little bit. I don't know if I got it on camera, but see, I might need to trim that off, or I might need to make this hole a little deeper. That's something I'll have to work out here in a minute. It's stuck in there. Of course, I guess I could always mount it onto there too. But not likely. Alright, so I'm closer now to finish the thing. My next step is going to be to drill 3 holes on this guy, and then make 3 matching holes in that hub. You know how you gotta sometimes make a tool to make a tool. This thing right here was on here to hold the spring to pull the little ram back up, and it got kind of U-shaped. You can tell by the unstraight appearance of it now that, you know, it was pretty well U-shaped, and it was touching the sides here, and I couldn't get the full stroke, and it was binding on the threads here on the little ram, and I couldn't turn it. So I made this little piece right there. I had to stop and do that. Made that little guy out of a piece of steel instead of aluminum. And this guy here, he's going to go in the foundry for my next misadventure in casting, whatever that might be. Alright, the springs are back on there and order is restored to the world, and I can go ahead and finish broaching the keyway here. That's what caused all the problems. I couldn't adjust that little screw to make it easier on me broaching the keyway, so I stopped in the middle of the job to do another job. And I think it's probably going to work like that all the way to the finish of this project. I'll be lucky, really and truly and seriously be lucky to finish by the end of the year. Okay, so the way that this goes together, press the bearing into this side. Here's the little cut for the bearing on the other side. What I've got here is a piece that's larger on these parts here, so that it will rest against the race, the inner race of the bearings, and keep them from having any pressure, you know, on the race. So what it'll do is it'll go into here like that. It's going to be in the hole, through the bearings. Everything's going to be pressed together, and a bolt through the middle to hold the wheel. So that effectively finishes this wheel, and in a minute I'll assemble the other wheel and it'll be finished. Okay, so I'll bring you right back. I've now got 2 power supplies in that box to take care of stuff for the Grizzly. One's a 12 volt to run the little motor that lifts the head up and down. The other's a 48 volt to run the stepper motor. And the 12 volt also provides power for the LED lights and for the Arduino, which is one more problem. I'm going to have to wire a resistor into the circuit to the Arduino, because it doesn't like it when the voltage gets above 9 volts, and of course this guy's putting out 12. So I've still got to fix that. So right now the Arduino's unplugged, and so is the stepper motor, because, you know, one's not going to work right without the other. Alright, so I bought a lot more of this material than I really needed, and I bought some of it. It's not exactly what was called for in the plans. I bought that square tubing because I don't want to weld up any 3/8 by 2 inch stuff to make parts out of, for, you know, the thing slides through and things, because I'm not that good at welding, you know. I don't want to do that. So I got that tubing. Now it's not drawn over mandrel, so it's got a seam down one side, and I'll just have to use my little Grizzly there to take the piece that slides inside, cut a groove down it so that it can avoid that seam, and it'll all work out okay. So for the piece inside, I got that 1.5 by 1.5 bar stock there. That sucker's really heavy. I got 3 times as much of that as what I need. In fact, I got more of everything there than what I really need so I can mess up. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I got extra to allow me to mess up. So I'm going to put you to sleep, and I'm going to load up some stuff in the bandsaw, and we'll start cutting out the pieces for the frame. Alright, according to the plans, I need one tube to be 16 1/4 inches long. Now, in case you missed it when I said it before, I'm deviating from Jeremy Schmidt's instructions. I'm not making the tube from 3/8 inch thick, 1.5 inch and 2 inch wide material, that you weld up. I'm just getting it already welded up. This is some good heavy tubing, 1/4 inch wall, not 3/8 like it would be, but it should fit pretty good on the bar stock. Like I say, it's got a seam, a weld seam right there. I'll just cut a little groove down the bar that goes in there, and it'll avoid the weld seam altogether. I can tell you that 1.5 inch bar is some heavy stuff. Now that 1.5 inch bar stock there is something that you could refer to as a substantial piece of metal. It weighs enough and costs enough too. Alright, now that I've got 3 pieces cut to length, and let's take a look at this stuff. We've got this square tubing, and if you look in the hole there, number one, he's got a weld seam running down one side, and the inside corners are round. This guy's got to go in there, and his corners are square. You see what I'm showing you here? He's not going to go in there like he is. I don't know if you can see that or not there. Anyway, he's not going to go in there like he is. He's going to have to get round on the corners, and he's going to have a little slot cut down there so that weld seam won't stop it from sliding up inside the tubing. So that's where the little grizzly comes in. We'll go over there and we'll set this guy up on it, and we'll cut the corners down, and then we'll cut us a little slot, and it'll be ready to slide inside of this tubing. And I'm going to let you guys take a little nap while I work up to that. Alright, so this is how I got it set up. I've got, shine a little light here, you can see, I've got V-blocks there to hold it straight. I put a level on it there so I know it's straight, not that it really matters that much. And I'm going to trim all 4 corners off like this, and then we'll be in business. There's the groove up the side of it. I'm going to complete that. Get all the corners rounded off, and then we'll see whether it fits or not. Sorry about kicking you guys. I do that a lot, don't I? Alright, back to sleep. Well, let's see if this thing, if it worked out. Here's the inner piece. Here's the weld seam right there. How about that? It's tight enough to me. Everything fits. So, that's where I'm going to stop with today's video. Got an awful lot more to do yet. I've got all kind of other jobs to do as well. But we're going to stop the video right there. We'll see if there's a Bubba joke or something to come along behind this. There sure ought to be after all this time we've waited for one. So Odie went to the to the pharmacist there. He is out of deodorant, you know, and he goes in and tells the pharmacist, he says, I would like to buy a container of that bottom deodorant, you know. And the pharmacist looked at him and he says, well, he says, we don't sell no bottom deodorant. All we got is just regular deodorant here, you know. And he's trying hard not to laugh, you know, at Odie for ordering bottom deodorant. Or he says, yeah, he says, you do too. I buy it here all the time. The pharmacist says, well, he says, I tell you what, he says, next time you come in, you bring the empty container, and he says, I'll see if I can help you find it. So sure enough, the next day, Odie's back. He hands the deodorant container over to the pharmacist. The pharmacist looks at it and he says, well, this is just normal deodorant. You put it under your armpits. No, Odie says, that ain't so. He says, look, right here on the package, it says shove up bottom. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.